Do you recall how much revenue have you been able to make from some of the templates that you create through this method?
The regular version is the first version that was based on my personal site. That one has made probably 16,000.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Consistent Creators. I'm your host, Darshan. This is the show where I sit down with inspiring creators to learn from their journeys. Today on the show, we have a very special guest from the lakes of Switzerland, the country that I've always found very beautiful. I first became aware of Cédric's work from Twitter, where he shares a lot about the work that he's doing with his framer business and a lot of side projects that he's working on. As you all know, I'm more naturally attracted towards anything side projects. Today, we are going to learn about Cédric's story and what goes behind making a framer business. So, without further ado, welcome to the show, Cédric.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. And yeah, let's dive in. Happy to talk with anything about Framer.
Amazing. Could you tell us who is Cédric and what does he does for a living?
Yeah, sure. So I've been in digital design for, let's say, I think a little more than a decade. Always worked in digital agencies and branding agencies in the past. But then during COVID, actually, also when Framer pivoted from their prototyping direction into the web builder, which they are right now. Yeah, I saw many chances into building a side income. This was in many ways like from freelancing or just offering services, but also making money as a creator. In I think 1 or 2 years ago, I switched completely over to my own businesses, and I'd say the biggest one is currently Framer templates, which we have like a store. This is my main income when it comes to consistent income, which you got also like from a 9 to 5 job, which of course I do not have anymore. So it's like perfect. Also, yeah, like explore other businesses on the side of that as well. Of course, initially this was a side project as well, but it turned into a full-time, let's say, business. So this is mainly what I do right now, building more templates, but also started offering services again, like a small UX and product design studio called Trueform, and scaling canvas supply, which is basically the framer template shop, and yeah, looking how that goes.
What were you doing before you started all these side hustles with framer templates?
As I was already touched on, I've worked in many digital agencies and also advertisement and branding agencies. So, for example, be Digitas Worldwide, but also Publicis and Meta Design. So these kind of agencies, which of course are bigger, then also I've been in a few smaller ones, which are here local in Switzerland. But I also always tried and also build something on a side. So I can say, okay, I tried for 10 years and it finally happened 11 years or 10 years later. So yeah, I think that's perfectly for this podcast as well, because you got to stay consistent to make it work at some day. So yeah, but I've been designing for my whole career, and yeah, with a digital focus.
How did you first get to know about Framer? When you were doing the full-time job, what really led you to creating Framer templates? You mentioned that you were creating some Framer templates on the side, or you were kind of tinkling with Framer. How did you really get to know about it?
My product design story has like a little friend on the side, which was called Webflow back then. And so in my last 9 to 5 position, which was like a design engineering lead, which was mainly about building or designing and building web experience or web experiences with Webflow. And that began quite early. I think that was like 7, 8 years ago. I started building websites on my own. I also, like, maybe as a side note, I do have some broader understanding also of all the web technologies, because my background, like my initial education, has been in design and in technology. So I was always touched on both worlds. So I never worked like completely in one sector. And yeah, when Webflow launched, I think that was also a decade ago or more. At some point, a few years later, I discovered that and mainly dived in and built like a lot of portfolios for myself as a side project, of course. And over the years, I got better and better at it, and eventually introduced it into the agency I worked. We like took it into the services, and yeah, then I started building sites, also client websites with Webflow. So this brought me into the whole low code, no code universe, if you want to call it like that. And in 2021, 22, when Framer pivoted, of course, I knew them already from like my product design background, when I also used it sometimes for prototyping, but I also like followed them on Twitter already and all that. And then I saw that they relaunched into a web builder, and I became one of their very first beta users. And also, I'm not sure if I was the very first creator as well, could be, but I think there has been 2 or 3 other ones. And then, yeah, started to build my first template in 2022, I think in summer. And yeah, sold at around, I don't know, $4,000 in a year, which is not so crazy much, but at least for me, it was a lot because I was used to my 9-to-5 income back then. And I saw, oh shit, yeah, there is something about making money on the internet. And yeah, since then, focused all my efforts on it and scaled it to make like my full-time income with templates.
I love how the story of making your first dollar on the internet changes the whole trajectory of your career. It just keeps on playing out for so many people out there. Do you remember what was the first website that you created in Framer?
The very first, I actually, or let's say, it's not something that went live, but I used it to make like a review. So I had like a quite nice, simple, basic portfolio website, which was built on Webflow back then. And when Framer's beta launched, I just rebuilt that in Framer and made, I think, a 2-hour long YouTube video with it and posted it on Twitter. And it got the attention of Framer itself and also the founders. I think that enabled a lot of collaboration, but also opportunities on both sides. And yeah, somehow became like the first, let's say, bigger Framer user who is actually also sharing some work on Twitter. That kicked off a lot.
Why did you create the YouTube video along with the website? What were you trying to do there?
Mainly to try out Framer. Of course, I had like some experience with it, I said, in prototyping, but although it's quite similar, I think they changed quite a few things. And I wanted to mainly, yeah, check what is possible already compared to Webflow, because Webflow was like my main tool to build websites back then. And of course, it was not that advanced yet, but it surprised me, and that's quite funny because you can see that in the video. It surprised me quite a lot what actually has been possible in the beta already. As said, I'm not really looking back. I made the switch, I would say, after that video, like built my first templates. Then probably half a year later, I also finally found the time to relaunch my own website, which ended up in Dashfolio, which was maybe my most successful template to date. That was the main purpose, just to try things out a little bit and compare, and also share with others. It was like the first time I shared like my real face and showed something I was working on Twitter or generally on YouTube. And I think that video got a few thousand likes and clicks and views. Of course, I did not really stay consistent with that. I focused more on Twitter. It was just interesting to make a comparison. And I did not really thought back then that I would actually completely switch over. But yeah, happened somehow.
You mentioned that you made $4,000 from the Framer template. Was it from the very first template that you had designed?
Yes, it was really the first one, which was called Cyberfolio. So it's like a quite simple portfolio template, which has like a work overview and some case studies, then an about page, contact page, and a unique homepage, which is like designed like a conversational user interface. I think the concept was quite unique already, although it wasn't really powerful because it had like, yeah, it had use of the CMS and things like that, but it was not so huge like a Datfolio Plus as a comparison. But yeah, I mean, back then Framer also itself was not so powerful yet, and I think it was quite a good template. I mean, I think I sold it for $35, which is more or less in the lower range, at least in the meantime. And but I think yeah, it was good to yeah, check out also what back then has been possible inside of the market. So especially on the Framer marketplace, there hasn't been like hundreds of creators as it is right now, and probably there have been 10 to 20. So the whole dynamic also changed over time. And when I look back, I think what I did wrong back then is that I just put it on the Framer marketplace and that's it. And what really changed is, as I already mentioned quickly, yeah, that I started building also an audience next to my products, and also try to focus my products to these audiences. And I think that's the number one, let's say, force that moved me more into this space. Okay, I can now make 6-7K a month just with it, which is basically, yeah, like a 12 or 16x or whatever compared to that year. But also shows that everyone starts small. So I think that's also important to mention.
Oh, did you mostly make all of that money selling the Framer template through the Framer marketplace, or were you also finding customers from some other places?
I always focused solely on the Framer marketplace and my own channel, although I think it hasn't been quite big. I think we were like 500-600 followers on Twitter. I think that would be it. So not quite, let's say, big enough to, yeah, like make a living just with this audience. That's definitely what changed in the last year.
The marketplace generally can get quite busy, right? And it's very hard for your templates to stand out over there. And since you did not have a lot of audience at the time, but you were still able to make a decent amount of money through the template, how were people discovering your template and why were they buying that template? Do you have any idea about it?
So yeah, over time, there were a lot of creators added, and of course, as you said, that's completely true that it has been more difficult to actually find me and my products. And so what I started doing, which was a logical direction, is that I think the first step was actually to build my own little marketplace with only my products on it, which of course Canvas supply in the meantime. And I think back then I had probably 3 or 4 products, and I tried really hard to bring people onto this marketplace. I actually did not want it to reliant on Framer, and of course I think there's quite a big chunk of sales that is coming from Framer, especially now when they introduce like their most successful creators and they have them listed. I think like 10 people, and I'm also one of them, and those are listed on the template page. And I think that could eventually drive some more traffic again towards me, although I think they introduced that a few months ago only. So the only problem is that I cannot yet differentiate from where a sale is coming. I think that's something that I want to focus on in the coming months as well, and just to see which one performs better. But yeah, I think that's a story behind that.
That cyber folio template, what is it called again?
Cyberfolio, yeah, was the first one.
What was different about it? What was the unique selling point for which people were buying it as compared to others?
Cyberfolio was the first one when not really many people built templates yet. So I think that was probably a reason that there just have been not many people yet. So there were a lot of eyes on me and a few other guys. But then back to Dashfolio, it was like the most successful. I think there I just added a lot more functionality, but also unique design. So the funny observation I made is that because the funny thing is that Dashfolio was based on my current personal website. And so I built that one as well in public and shared updates and shared like when I launched it and everything. And I just saw, oh, there are a lot of people actually liking this design. And so I switched it into a product as well. And yeah, that was like my first or my second mind blowing situation where I think I sold 7K in 3 or 4 weeks. And that also brought me into the one of the strategies that I'm still using today is that every time I build a new venture or a new idea, which needs a ton of time to build actually, why not build or why not change this product into a template as well so other people could profit from, like, I don't know, these hundreds of hours that went into the build. I also launched a course later on, and I took this custom course platform and turned that into CourseOS, which is also one of my popular templates. I'm also soon going to do that again with Dark Design, which is my inspiration platform for dark themed websites. I'm also going to do that again with this one. So launching like a curation template for designers that want to start like a curation platform. And so I think that's something also really valuable to know, that if you have the need for something and you're building it, the chances are quite high that other people actually would like this product as well. And so I think that's a really good start, or like a thought when you're starting out, because maybe many people think, oh, I don't know what I should build. I have no idea in what direction I should go. And so that was something that helped me, or at least I did not like, it was not obvious that that's maybe one principle that I could use later on and on. But when I look back, that's definitely a strategy that helped me in the beginning to like find some kind of product market fit for these templates. Something I can highly recommend to anyone starting out.
I absolutely love this. This is something that I also tell people that if you are scratching your own itch and if you're trying to solve your own problem, chances are other people are also going to have similar problems. And what works for you might also work for others. In that case, you don't really need to go searching for problems elsewhere. You just start looking within and you find so many of the ideas. And I clearly see a pattern here that a lot of templates that you're creating, you start as a side project idea, the side project works out, you end up making that as a template, and turns out that other people also need that and they buy it. Do you recall how much revenue have you been able to make from some of the templates that you created through this method? So one was Dashfolio. How much did you make with Dashfolio?
Dashfolio, I have like two versions. Like the regular version is the first version that was based on my personal site. That one has made, I would say, probably 16,000. And the plus version, which is mainly like an advanced version that has way more capabilities like membership, also more pages, and some more complex features like the sidebar that can be collapsed. That one, of course, only exists half the time, but made the same revenue due to its higher price. So I would say that one is also around 15, 17K and has been launched, I think, half a year ago.
So let's say that Dashfolio has made about 32K so far. What about Course OS?
Courses is around, I think, 10K. It's, of course, because it's way more niche, and also like serves one single audience, which are mainly creators that are building a course. This one, yeah, I think, not sure how many sales it has, but it is around 8 to 10K, which is also fine. So maybe as an explanation, I'm not really looking how much like a template is selling or how many times it's selling. For me, my most important factor is actually how much money they all two together every month. And of course, there are templates that are probably not the same success as others, but in total, I think that's like, yeah, a really interesting metric, because of course, when you want to make a living of something, you need to have like the total number in the end. And I think the single sales, those are also important, of course, when it comes to how can I optimize my products. Probably I'm also pushing something out of the lineup and remove it over time if it hasn't sold at all, or quite rarely. I think I do not have a product that has never sold, but I have a few products that are probably only at like 10 to 20 sales and only a few hundred revenue. So yeah, it really depends on a lot of factors, how much template can do in the end. But I think in the end, it's cool to have like a lineup that is differentiated, that has like quite multiple use cases as well. Because otherwise, of course, we can build a product that has one niche, it has one audience, one use case. And yeah, maybe if you nail that down and completely double down on it, you can make a living with it. I don't know. Also, like I thought that I had recently is, okay, what would happen if I would double down completely on Dashfolio? So like building, or like not calling it a product, but it's more of like a toolkit. But then I yeah, forgot about it again, and not sure if that would be the right direction though, because I think e-commerce works the best with many products in the lineup. And of course, you do not have to forget quality. So that's why I only launched probably 10 to 12 templates in over 2 years. And then there are other creators that launched 50 in 1 year or no, or less even. And so, yeah, I think in the end, it's all about how you want to position yourself and what kind of customer you would like to target. And I think a lot of strategies also going into that, and people only see the templates and everything, but they do not really see what thought process and what strategies are behind. So yeah, it's probably not so easy as it looks from the outside.
Of course, it's never is. The point that I was trying to make is you can make 6 to 7K dollars a month, which is making a good living by selling something which essentially is a byproduct of something that you already wanted to do. So you wanted to create a portfolio, you wanted to create a curation site, and then as a byproduct of it, it also makes revenue on top of it, which is pretty amazing. Let's also talk about the process about this and behind the scenes.
Mhm.
As you already mentioned, is of course it's not that easy as it looks. Let's take one of the templates that you would like, and can you walk us through the process that you have to create that template? How are you thinking about it? What goes into really making that template?
Probably the most simple one to break down would again be Dashfolio, but let's go with the plus version, since the regular version has been based on my own website, which, yeah, it's not so simple to break down why it was as it was. Like the goal of it was mainly to correct and optimize every issue that I had with the normal Dashfolio before. So of course, as I built something for myself, I only had my own needs in it as well, and people have other needs than myself. And that's something I started doing in the beginning phase of it. So maybe as Information Dashfolio Plus has been completely built from scratch. So I did not take the regular version and build on top of that. It was on scratch, started from scratch, and also evaluated all the parts that were needed. The only thing I knew back then is, okay, a sidebar and like this dashboard style could or is really successful and popular. I want to build on top of that as well. Then it was just important to break down the structure first. So what what pieces and what contents do my customers want to display inside of their websites? And so because my audience has been really creative and designer heavy, actually continued and started to build like these page types. So what do I need to include in the template? And there, of course, has been pages like obviously the portfolio, but then also like a shop, because nearly a lot of designers are also selling as a side business some of their products. And so I wanted a store in there. Many designers are also selling services. So I also included, and that was not inside of the regular Dashfolio, that was something new, that they can actually also relatively simple, just add services in the CMS. I had also integrated the blog section already, but I wanted to have some sort of a little like Twitter. So you have a thought or something important or a status update, and you can also show that. So I implemented this timeline styled little feed that was also new. And so as you can see, it started to include many new use cases as well. Because like a template, I think the more use cases it can serve, but that's still within the same niche on audience, the better. So because people can take the template, they can remove stuff they do not want, they can add their content, and they can go live with it. And that's usually really straightforward. And I think that's also how I imagine like the process after a sale, because I want them to have a sleek looking website and also fast. Because like the biggest problem we all have always is like building 1 or 2 months of a portfolio website, then probably procrastinating on it, and maybe launch it 3 months later. That's definitely maybe an issue that we all got, myself included. And I think there was definitely the number one use case that I wanted to solve with Dashfolio, or with both Dashfolios, is that people just can go live with their website, put their work on it, and yeah, have something online. Maybe as a process, like broken down from a holistic view, I would say first check what the needs are, what the use cases are, or what the needs are, then break the needs into use cases. Then out of the use cases, you can actually more or less tell what content or what pages should be in. And then, of course, you can break the pages again into modules and all that stuff. I do not build the templates quite differently than like client websites. I think more it's actually the same thing, but a client website is probably a little bit more brand specific and only got or is sold once. And templates are a little more open when it comes to the branding, because people can customize it, but it gets sold multiple times. So I think the process does not really have to be different. I think you just need to make sure that you're nailing the needs and the use cases in the beginning, so that you have like some sort of goal you can work towards. And I think as soon as you have that, because that's also like the most tricky thing, is because it's completely fictional. Okay, so what do people actually want? So and this is also maybe the thing that is most hard for us when it comes to building a personal website, because we have like perfectionism and everything, and we're never happy with it. And I think the same problem also lies a little bit in building your own products. And so I also struggled with that since the beginning. And what I always try to do is to really try to come up with the most important goals it has to achieve, and like what problems it needs to solve, and then like also build a quite simple and similar interface for him as well. So as you can maybe see, I have more or less consistent design style through all my products. And that's mainly because I I can and also do not want to reinvent the wheel every time I'm building a new product. So I want to solve people's problems and issues. And I think this is most often either functional and not visual. And so I also try to keep them really simple, because either people can, I mean, yeah, they can change everything up and stuff like that. But the most crucial and the most heavy part, which is the functional and like the structural part, is all there. And I think that's maybe also why I'm selling that much copies, because it's really having actual value in it, and it's not just like a landing page template that looks nice, but okay, it's not really solving anything. It's really like it's a product that has deep functionality and value in it. And I think this is something also I can recommend to anyone, is just make sure you actually solve quite a tricky problem of someone. And this can be your own problem in the beginning, of course, but over time you can see how your audience is ticking. I think that will show you many many issues they have, and then you can actually just reply with a new product and eventually make a few sales.
You mentioned a very important part of your process, which was coming up with use cases. When you're working on a client project, of course, it's the client who is giving you those use cases and giving you those sort of constraints which allow you to function smoothly. In this case, how are you coming up with those use cases? Are you just making them up, or are you asking your audience about what they want? What goes on there?
So that is a good question. So let's say it's a mix of a few things, but I'm not really doing all the things for each template. But I'd say if you're having a product that you have built for yourself first, you have the use cases already. But if it's a product that is maybe something new and you want to solve a problem for someone else, it could also make sense to actually ask the people or specific people to like what they think of an idea, or you can show them a first draft of the design, or tell them what the product will solve for them and what the benefits are. And I think so what you also could do, and that's something I did a few times after I leveraged like having a bigger audience, but also bigger email list, is that you can just ask them and they give you feedback. They tell you actually what they want. And so this research part is sometimes can also be helpful. Sometimes it's not helpful. It's the same as with client projects. Sometimes you have research parts that has to be done as well. Sometimes like the needs are crystal clear from the beginning already. But I would say if it's not something that you've built for yourself and you have an idea, go out and validate it with real people. I mean, they will tell you if it's a good idea or not. I think I have actually written an article about that a few weeks ago for my newsletter. And I think the third point is that you can actually just build like a really simplified version of the product and offer it for free, for example. And then you will also have like some sort of benchmark, like a number of free downloads. And if the number is high, the interest will also seemingly be really high as well. There are quite a lot of ways to achieve validation, but I think, yeah, the one that I use the most is that I'm building my own ideas, but I also see that many people are attracted to this idea, and this reflects in the usage numbers. Like as an example, Dark now I think has surpassed 200,000 visitors or unique visitors, which is also somehow crazy. So I know, okay, the platform is good. Probably it could, like, I don't know, have even more visitors, but I know that there is some kind of value that is Dark actually giving. my next thought is, okay, so the platform itself is done so well that people are coming back and back. And so, okay, why not turning this into a product as well? Because it seems like they like it. So, okay, that's my obvious next step. And this does not mean that I will turn down dark or sell it or whatever. It's just for me, okay, I have like a venture and it's going well. So of course there are also like other factors that play into that, like what sites I am creating on there, and stuff like that. So the content, of course, depends then on the user that is actually using the template. But I think the platform itself, because if it would be built quite bad, that will also reflect in the usage numbers. You can see quite simple in different aspects of analytics, of other benchmarks, how well a product or a project is performing. And if it's performing well, it also says that you're doing quite a few things right. And as soon as you have this information, it's actually quite a logic step to continue and eventually transform it into value product that someone else could benefit from.
I love how you have this no BS approach to everything. It's not overcomplicating anything really. So after you have the clarity of the use cases and what you really want to build, what goes into actually building out those templates? Do you design them in Figma, then move them to Framer? Do you directly build them in Framer? What's happening there?
Once I have like a structure drafted, this can be either on pen and pencil or even just in my head. I most often go directly to Framer, because like the canvas in Framer is so similar to Figma. I think it does not really make sense to start in Figma first and then take everything over to Framer. There are like a few exceptions, of course, like if you need to, I don't know, relaunch or redesign a whole brand experience or art direction of a product, but that's also more in client sector. So it can be, of course, that you need to redesign like a landing page or a brand. And in that case, I would go to Figma first. But in my case, the style is already set, the structure, the concept is already set. So it's, yeah, it makes just a lot of sense to directly jump into Framer and having a product ready, like in more than double the speed, maybe even faster. Just a lot of traction going, and I think it's just important that if someone is feeling itself at home more in Figma, I mean, there speaks nothing against starting in Figma, designing the whole template, and then taking it over to Framer with the plugin. I think that's in the end just a personal preference, or maybe also like an experience factor. For myself, I always do this in Framer directly, because I also have like all the web constraints, the tool constraints, like everything is just real in there. And of course, you can press a button and you have a functional website. So that's just like more fun for me. But I also enjoy like designing and building designing like web apps and mobile apps and that stuff. And of course, that would make way more sense in Figma. So yeah, it depends a lot on what your foundation is. So if you have like a concept and a design and everything in your head, and you feel comfortable in Framer, why not start in Framer and test that?
While you were talking about this, I just realized that this speaks to the power of making things familiar. Now, because Framer feels very familiar to Figma,
Yep.
you feel comfortable working directly in Framer. Otherwise, the traditional approach or what usually the product managers say is that creating a competitive advantage, making tools look very different or behave different. But uh, in this case, it really works the other way around. You are also now creating a course for Framer templates, right? Or maybe the course for teaching people how to make templates. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
So that one is around, I think, quite long already. I'm not exactly sure when I launched it, but I think it must be more than a year already. And yeah, what that basically is, because my journey has not been easy, and I know what I made wrong and what worked. And so Framer Money is basically my step-by-step guide that I used. Of course, I did not have it, but that's like the step-by-step guide that I followed when I reflect all that myself. That was needed to like go to a revenue of, let's say, 4 or 5K a month. So that's like all the steps. And I mean, there's things like building an audience, building in public, like all these methods that I also use myself to now even scale it further. So like going to 10K followers on Twitter, soon reaching 100K in revenue of templates and all that stuff. I think the concept stays the same and it's really scalable. And so, yeah, Framer Money is mainly what I did to reach this state. It's currently only an audio course because there was like a really high demand back then. And I didn't really have the time to put together like a crazy course. So it's kept quite simple. But I think as soon as you know the foundations and also dig deeper into those as well, many things will click in your head. Yeah, and also planning eventually to build the course out a little bit and also like adding some video content as well, like probably building a template myself and then going through all the steps. But not really sure yet how this will turn out. But yeah, that's more or less it about Frame Money.
So if someone wants to make a living selling Framer templates, they should go buy your course, Framer Money. Would that be a good one-line pitch?
Yeah, Framer.money is the domain. Yes,
Couple of last questions.
for sure.
So if someone wants to get into the business of making Framer templates, they just want to dip their toes and see if this is something for them or not. How do they go about it? Where should they start?
First would definitely be to know the tool. So if you're not familiar with Framer at all, you got to make sure that you're understanding all the web basics, like the foundations, how the web works, because Framer, although it's quite similar to Figma, of course, because it's an actual website in the end, you will have to know quite a lot of technical things as well, or at least it helps a lot. Of course, you can just build something and launch it, but eventually it will not be that good. So I highly recommend like reading a little bit through what's HTML, what's CSS, what's JavaScript, just to make like your way into the world of web development. And then of course jump into Framer, give it a try things out, build other people's work just as a like a for educational purposes. And yeah, just make sure that you're getting better and better. Probably it's even like client projects that you're building in Framer. Just make sure that you're like getting an expert in it. And the next step would be that you should definitely join the partner program. Because the partner program is quite nice. So Framer is actually paying you half of their hosting revenue in the first year when someone buys your template and launches it. And I can say that this is probably making 30% of my total revenue. So it's quite a big chunk. Then as soon as you're a creator and you have your first product, make sure that you also start that in public. So tell people about it, share sneak peeks and stuff like that. And then try to launch it with a with a boom. So what I mean with that is just do like a really nice launch tweet so everyone knows about it. And then chances are quite high that you're making a few sales with it, although your audience is probably just a few hundreds or even less. And then keep that spirit up. I think the journey has not even started then. Make sure that you're creating more templates or more designs, grow your channel, and launch new products. And I think this will compound over time. Since you have existing products, they will continue selling, and you will have new products that start selling. And so the number goes more up and up and up. And yeah, in the end, you maybe find yourself on a few thousand revenue a month.
That's amazing. Now, say if someone is inspired by listening to this and they actually go ahead and start building Framer templates. I'm trying to also fish for some ideas over here. Since you are one person, you don't have all the time in the world. Are there any some sort of Framer templates that you wish that you would have built if you had a lot of time? What would you want other people to build?
One key specific audience that is also using Framer, but I haven't touched or targeted at all, are startups in total, like SaaS companies and stuff like that. They are actually the second biggest target audience of Framer itself, and so it's actually making quite good sense to actually start with a startup template, since startups are probably looking for a new website or for a new marketing website, and they do not really want to spend 10K on a new website, but they probably spend 1 or 200. And this is definitely an opportunity that many creators already made use of. But I would say, since the space is anyways growing and it's getting bigger and bigger, more companies, plus more bigger companies are joining the game. Yeah, it's definitely something that you should try and launch, because also Twitter is perfect for all kinds of digital startups. So you have a launch platform, you have a tool that is really popular in the space, and you have your template. So I think that would definitely be a good opportunity for everyone. And I'm not sure if I will join this space as well. I actually always wanted, but never really found the time yet. So, but who knows?
Wow, I feel inspired. I think I might actually take you up on that idea because I work in the startup world. I work at a startup. I've mostly spent all of my design career working with startups.
Yeah,
So I know a thing or two about the websites that they usually need. And
perfect.
I think talking to you, it has given me so many insights of how does a framer business look like. I definitely would want to create some of the templates for the startup world. Cedric,
Perfect.
thanks a lot for inspiring me and for being so transparent with how you work behind the scenes. Do you have any closing thoughts? What would you like the world to know?
What would actually be something that I would tell myself if I was like 10 years younger is actually to start sharing your work in the like digital world. So this means like Twitter, YouTube, any channel that you'd like, maybe also Instagram or Threads. Just share what you're working on. I actually missed that point 10 years, and I'm really blown away what the effects are once I started and started growing that. So it really, you only have benefits with it. There are no disadvantages. I start building an audience as early as possible. It will only be positive.
All right, start documenting your work and let it take a life of its own. Cedric Moore, everyone. Thank you so much.